This week, I want to share a reflection on my life journey and the choices, courageous or otherwise, that define our paths. I drift back to a time not so long ago when I stood on the precipice of my journey, freshly graduated and eager to embark on the next chapter of my life. I'm calling this discourse Courageous Choices because it is a trait that is often lacking in my generation and increasingly scarce in our society. I've distilled my thoughts into 3 key points. The benefits of failure. Failure is an essential part of learning and growth. When we embrace failure, we open ourselves up to new possibilities and opportunities. Connecting the dots. It is often difficult to see the big pictures when we are in the midst of our journey. However, as we look back on our experiences, we can begin to see how these dots connect and how our choices have shaped our path. Attaching your heart to a purpose. When we have a purpose that drives us, we are more likely to make courageous choices and persevere through the challenges. I hope that my reflection will inspire you to make courageous choices in your own life. The economist Steve Hartford wisely notes, success comes through rapidly fixing our mistakes rather than getting things right the first time. The idea resonates deeply with the human experience. Yet when we face our mistakes, we often react defensively, missing the primary benefit of failure, learning from it. Denial is one of those natural reactions, and it is often the hardest to overcome. We find it challenging to admit our mistakes and make amends. However, the biblical proverb, one who conceals their wrongdoings will not prosper, but one who confesses and abandons them will find compassion, offers great wisdom. To overcome failure, we must first recognize it as a valuable opportunity for growth. It's important, however, to distinguish between dreams grounded in reality and those that are inflated or illogical. Productive failure involves trying new things, experimenting where failure is survivable, and acknowledging when we have not succeeded. 51 years ago, Reed College in Portland, Oregon offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. The campus was covered in beautifully hand-lettered posters, labels, and Steve Jobs, a student at the time, decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do it. He learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between the different letter combinations, and about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, and artistically subtle in a way that science cannot capture. He found it fascinating. Of course, none of this had any obvious practical application in his life, especially considering that Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur and an inventor best known as the co-founder and CEO of Apple. But 10 years later, when he was designing the first Apple Macintosh, it all came back to him. He designed everything he had learned about typography into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If Jobs had never taken that calligraphy class in college, the Mac would never have had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts, which we love so much. In fact, if he had never taken that class, it is likely that no personal computer would have the wonderful typography that they have today. Of course, it was impossible for Jobs to connect the dots looking forward when he was in college, but it was very clear to him looking backward 10 years later. As Jobs would famously note, you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. Trust that the dots in your life will eventually connect. Often, we start by dreaming big, but falter when faced with the dirty sacrifices required to realize those dreams. I found it is important to recognize that our talents are not ours alone and they should benefit others. Being a steward of our talents is key. Furthermore, we are not alone. We are a part of a larger body of humanity. So I challenge us to develop a moral sensibility, apply it with integrity, and act on it with a sense of urgency. The fulfilled life isn't merely the pursuit of self-interest, it's a consequence of selflessness. Serving others ultimately serves ourselves. The parable of the talent tells of a master who entrusted his property to his stewards before leaving his house to travel. When I read this parable, I was struck by the steward of the one talent who hid it out of fear. How many of us felt like that steward, afraid to develop our talents or doubtful of their value? We may convince ourselves that if our talents are not great, then we might as well hide them away because nobody wants them anyway. Or maybe we fear because we compare our talents to others or fail to recognize them altogether. Each of us has been given talents, just like the stewards in the parable. The number of talents we have does not affect our importance. We are not compared to others, but are simply asked to develop the gifts and talents we have been given. It is only then that our talents can truly benefit and impact the lives of others. That is a courageous choice. That is the purpose of our journey. In closing, I'll leave you with the responsibility of preserving and enriching the values you have received. Remember that your talents are not just for your own gain. Be a steward, develop them, and let them benefit others. The courageous choice is to trust in the greater design of life and impact the world with your unique gifts and talents. Thank you for watching.